What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media on the Gillette Stadium game field as the Patriots just finished up their first preseason game, a 17-3 win against the Carolina Panthers. We're here to break it all down. Quick hitter, main thoughts, big thoughts, especially with the quarterback situation and what happened tonight. There's a lot to get to.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It was crazy. Again, we'll do a quick hitter. We won't go crazy here. Maybe 20, 30 minutes to kind of unleash our post-game thoughts. A reminder, we are powered by Game Time and Prize Picks. Head over to Game Time and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. And head over to Prize Picks. We did our Prize Picks earlier. Unfortunately, I think it lost because we only saw one drive from Drake Maye, but we'll try it again next time. Head over to Prize Picks, use code CLNS for a deposit match bonus, 100%, up to $100. Terms apply on both of those. So let's peel the Band-Aid off right away. We'll talk about the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Drake Maye was sort of the entree. He was what everybody wanted to see in this game. Nobody cared about the appetizer and Jacoby. It was one driving out.
I like a lot.
And then Maye gets in instantly. It's like, all right, let's see what we got here. He goes one drive. He goes 2 for 3 for 19 yards. Converts a first down with 2 first downs on the drive, I believe. The first one was the first run to Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
Second one was the dump off to Antonio Gibson. It's like, all right, we're kind of cooking here. We're getting to see the kid. And then the next drive, Bailey Zappe comes in and runs like 7 straight. So that was probably disheartening for Patriots fans, certainly disheartening for us in the press box trying to figure out what we're going to get and what we're going to see in this number 3 pick. It's early. There's not a lot to glean from it. But what did you make of really the quick leash on Drake Maye tonight?
It made sense given the offensive line situation. I feel like that's the only real thing you can take away from why Drake Maye wasn't out there for very long. Because when he actually did come into the drive after Jacoby Brissett's single drive, he still had the starting offensive line out there, which was notable to me. I thought, okay, they're finally giving him reps with the top offense.
Right.
I figured it was maybe just to see how he could respond with those guys, obviously with better protection around him. Then he gets pulled. At the time, like when this was going on live, I think we were of the mindset of, is this a showcase for Bailey Zappe?
Yeah.
Like, is this... And the thing is, they've been splitting Joe Milton and Bailey Zappe, the quarterback 3 reps, for pretty much all of training camp. They basically just switch off periods. And the only time that 2 quarterbacks even seems useful is during one-on-ones, where they split the fields in half. But even then, Joe Milton could probably handle all of those duties if he really needed to. So you start to wonder, okay, is this them saying, we got to put some Bailey Zappe tape out there from this season with this supporting cast to maybe give, some teams something to get excited about or maybe get intrigued by that they want to trade for him? Maybe this was just to see, okay, what does Bailey look like with more reps because he hasn't gotten extended time under center in training camp. Again, an odd situation, might just totally be on the offensive line, have nothing to really do with Bailey Zappe himself. But even then, Joe Milton didn't come in until Zappe had been in for 7 drives. So bit of an odd situation. I am going to just assume that the offensive line had a majority to do with that because, even when you had Chooks out there when he was hurt, we didn't know if he was going to play or not. It was backup line. I did like what I saw from Caden Wallace. We'll kind of touch on that as well. The second line wasn't terrible, but still, with a guy like Drake Maye, you don't want to risk it. So definitely an odd situation. I'm very disappointed that we didn't get more Drake Maye. But if they were trying to preserve his health, I think that does make sense.
Yeah, for sure. Zappe finishes the game 12 of 20 for 108 yards, gets sacked twice. I believe they scored 1 touchdown with him in the game. It was a 2-yard Kevin Harris touchdown run. So he was fine. He was okay. Again, you mentioned showcase. I think that's maybe the positive way to look at it, where, okay, the Patriots are going to try and do him a favor. They're going to get him on the field. Hey, kid, show us what you can do. Show the league what you can do. And we'll, again, if there's enough, I guess, trade value in it, we can trade you. Or if we do end up cutting you, then maybe you kind of land on your feet. You don't end up in no man's land. You don't have to come back to the practice squad because at the end of the day, it's clear that he is not in their plans beyond the rest of this preseason, especially because what we saw from Joe Milton. So let's talk about Joe Milton. Bazooka Joe Milton. He goes rogue today. Rogue is strong. I think everybody
went off for sure.
Everybody got really excited, obviously, about the 38-yard touchdown pass to Jaquay Jackson. He had that spinning play. He kind of extends the play and dumps it off. He ran. I'm sorry. He ran and got. I don't know if it was the first down, but got some yards with his feet.
A couple good scrambles in there
today. A couple good scrambles from Joe Milton. So he looked pretty good. Gerard Mayo after the game, we talked to him and he said that somebody asked him who were you most impressed with, and he said, well, I don't really want to single anyone out. I want to look at the tape. I don't really know. We didn't see the game much. He goes, oh, but Joe Milton, he was awesome.
Yeah.
So, like, that's super cool for Milton. Obviously, we spoke to him after the game as well. You know, he seemed thrilled, obviously happy with his performance. So we also talked to Bailey Zappe, who you mentioned it. I wasn't in there for his press conference, but he was sort of, you know, laid back. He was asked about the booze, and, you know, he doesn't, I guess
it was a funny response,
yeah.
Like, someone asked him about the fact that he was being booed and what it feels like with Patriots fans being a little hot and cold on who they like at quarterback.
Right.
As the question was being asked, he laughed, just understanding what was coming. And I thought what he said was pretty, you know, insightful. He said, hey, I wasn't really bothered by it when people were cheering for me when people were against Mac Jones.
Right.
And he says that that's translated now to where obviously everyone wants Drake Maye. They even want Joe Milton out there instead of Zappe. And he says it doesn't really bother him now that people are booing against him. It feels like he really is, at least in front of us, taking this in stride as best he can.
For sure, which he kind of has to. That's the position he's been put in, and I think he's handling it pretty well. So let's talk about Joe Milton. I don't want to ask the question, but I think I'm going to try and frame it this way. Is there anything from seeing a lack of Drake Maye, seeing a ton of Joe Milton, where it's like,
Okay,
and now they're not going to do it. They're not going to start the 6-rounder. But this early on, is it like, oh wow, we actually might have something in the 6-rounder too? Or is it still
to a
completely
degree?
developing?
Yeah, I don't think the coaching staff is going to say, "Wait a minute, Joe Milton."
Yeah, right.
He might be the guy. I think they maybe will say, okay, he's beginning to look like the kind of prospect that we hoped he'd be, because coming out of college, Joe Milton was somebody where, you know, reads were a bit of an issue. Obviously, touch was a big issue. Consistency with his accuracy. Even in training camp, we've said it before, we actually think that with his third QB reps, he's made the most of them for the most part. The accuracy looks good. He's finding open receivers, not throwing into bad windows, staying in the pocket. And today, you saw the poise. There was even a scramble where he was in the pocket, showed a little bit of nimbleness, and then scrambled because he had to. And then on the underneath throws, that was a really big thing for me. We know he's got the arm.
Right.
We saw it on the Jaquay Jackson touchdown. I'm not going to lie. I thought he could have floated it, maybe, you know, given Jackson something to run under. But he was like, no, I'm Joe Milton.
It was literally,
beaming this.
You're open, you double moved him, he's gone, I'm getting it to you immediately, and it was like on a laser. It was awesome.
Which, I mean, still, it's a touchdown.
Right.
I'm not nitpicking that at all. The one negative I'd say with Joe Milton was that out route, or they were trying to set out the out and up. Bailey Zappe actually made a joke about it, saying that he set up Joe Milton's touchdown because they'd thrown so many out routes, and then it ended up coming on and out and up. But yeah, Joe Milton, I like the underneath touch and accuracy. I like the decision making. Other than the out, I really did think he had a strong day today, and I don't think he's pushing Drake Maye or anything like that. We're not even close. This guy was carving up third and fourth string guys who aren't going to be on active NFL rosters.
That's a good point.
But for this 6th-round quarterback who you were hoping would just give you something to where maybe, you know, you have some depth for the short term, maybe long term he turns into a trade chip, I thought this was a great start for Joe Milton.
I don't think that he's going to overpass Drake Maye either, at all whatsoever. I'm saying it in jest, where I don't think it's the right move. I don't think it's the right thing to do. What worries me is, frankly, the Boston sports media market we're in, where Joe Milton has a good preseason, just like Bailey Zappe had good preseasons with Mac, and the starter doesn't play well, and then all of a sudden it's, we'll give Joe Milton a chance. Why aren't we giving Joe Milton a chance? You saw this, you saw that. Tom Brady was a 6th-round.
Luckily, we got a layer of Jacoby Brissett
course,
over that Drake Maye to give a little bit more of a cushion.
There is a lot that has to happen for us to get to that.
Yeah,
I'm not
for
saying
sure,
it even will, because it's not like Maye has played bad. We just haven't seen it yet, and Milton comes out, it's like, let's see what happens again. Not saying that's going to happen, but it's something to keep in mind. It's there's pros and cons to bringing in 2 rookie quarterbacks at once. You saw it work out with, you know, the Redskins when Robert Griffin III goes down. Kirk Cousins comes in, plays well. They turn him into, you know, their franchise quarterback for a little while. But the cons as well is constant comparison, and, you know, do you sit this guy? Do you start this guy? One guy, all that stuff. Again, we're not there yet. It's super early. It's game 1. But overall, Joe Milton plays well. Zappe actually played okay too, and then Drake Maye gets the 1 series. So that's sort of the diagnosis on the quarterbacks tonight. We're going to get to defense. We're going to get to special teams. We're going to get to all of it. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Game Time. We'll be right back. Dog days of summer here in Boston, which means it's time to get to some games over at Fenway Park. This baseball season, I'm using Game Time to land my Red Sox tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which means getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's super easy. You just open the app, click sports, and the games will be right there for you. Right now, you can get tickets to the Rolling Red Sox for as low as $11. You can even buy parking for the game and check out your seat view right in the app. With Game Time, you can save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theaters, and more. Get the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. That's Game Time. Head over to Game Time. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, let's get to the defense, Taylor.
Yeah.
Patriots defense has been awesome for the last X amount of years. I wrote it in my postgame column. They've been great for like the last 25 years. There's never really been a problem with the Patriots defense, and they showed it again tonight. They showed they were the reason why the Patriots, I think, even were able to win 4 games last year. Yeah. And I think ultimately they're the reason why they're going to win bunch was strong. They're going to win more
Got
games.
excited.
Yeah, they're going to win more games than I think people will think they will again this year, because there's guys, and I'll kind of leave it to you, but Jeremiah Farms, O'Shea Jimenez, Joe Giles Harris, and Christian Ellis all shined tonight. They all looked really good. Guys who some could be more of roster locks at this point. Others are trying to play themselves onto the 53-man. But right now, I think even without the stars out there, without Christian Barmore because he's been out, without Matthew Judon because he's doing the contract thing, Devon Gottschall doesn't play. Like, a lot of these guys who are their starters, even the backups and the lower tier guys, come out here and kick the Panthers' butts. Now, granted, I wrote about this too. The Panthers, they were the worst team in football last year. They had the worst offense in football last year, and they were using their backup quarterback. So it's a big grain of salt. But these guys still came out here and basically shut them out. They only had 3 field goals at the end. So what did you think of the defense? What did you make of the guys kind of fighting for those middle-tier roster spots here?
Yeah, that defensive front really did dominate. And I'm going to do my victory laps here. I've been telling you all, look out for Jeremiah Farms, look out for O'Shea Jimenez, and look what happens. Now, of course, once again, the Panthers had 32 players inactive. Right. So they're starters on both sides of the ball, and then a little bit extra. So obviously, massive grain of salt. But Jeremiah Farms is somebody who I've mentioned gives you run and pass defense versatility, guy who's great with his hands, more explosive than I think you'd expect, and more stout than I think you'd expect. You saw that. He drew 3 different penalties. 2 of them came back-to-back, was consistently in the backfield, just absolutely wrecked shop up front. Love to see that out of him. And then O'Shea Jimenez, a guy who I think brings versatility, although we're mainly seeing him on the edge. But he was the guy who I did think the strip that he had didn't end up getting recovered, but I thought the strip kind of got lucky. It was good on him capitalizing on an opportunity. He did use power. I thought the right guard tripped the right tackle on the play, but hey, things happen in the NFL. The point is you got to make the most of your opportunities, as I mentioned, and Jimenez knocking the ball out was huge. He also did have another clean win on a rep where he didn't actually get the sack, so I really liked what I saw from him today. Then you talk about linebackers. Now, Joe Giles Harris is someone who I had on my Patriots 53-man roster projection. A lot of that was because Sione Takitaki is still on the PUP list, but also because Giles Harris has gotten some run with the top defense. He's made some plays in camp. Today, you see the guy get his hands on 2 passes. One of them was almost an interception. The other, he showed great awareness coming on a blitz and then getting his hand up, so I was impressed by what I saw from him. And then Christian Ellis, a guy who I really saw as a core special teamer, but also someone, especially recently, getting more reps on the defensive side of the ball, even with the top unit. He had a really productive day. I think he had a sack, 2 quarterback hits, like 3 or 4 tackles. Really active day for him. So in that defensive front, I'd say those 4 players really stood out for me today. Disruptive, flying all over the field. It was cool to see.
Yeah, I will add something on the defensive front, and I want to loop it into something on the offense. And it's two guys on this roster who are kind of going in opposite directions, one on defense, one on offense. First, defense, Armon Watts.
Yeah.
Comes in here, 1-year deal. Played well. Where was he? In Pittsburgh, I believe, right? Last year.
He's like a rotational guy, but he was pretty efficient in the time he got.
He was efficient, and he was one of the guys who the Patriots brought in this sort of mini free agency spree this year, right? And you think that he's not maybe a lock. Someone obviously has to come in and prove themselves. But when you sign a guy, you think this guy's going to be a part of our team next year. He wasn't out there with the first team. He wasn't, I don't think, out there. He was out there a little bit with the second team tonight. And then he was basically in through the rest of the game. When someone who is, you think is close to a roster lock, they're out there with the starters. You see what they have in them, and then they kind of come off the field. So to see Armon Watts out there that late in the game, trying to make plays. It looked like he was trying to fight for a roster spot, and I just didn't expect that from him this early on in his Patriots career. The other one is JuJu Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
Same thing. We talked about it. I wrote about it on CLNSmedia.com. You can check it out. It was one of my 5 immediate thoughts from the game. I feel like JuJu's standing on this roster might be a little bit more secure than everybody thinks. He was out here. All right.
I hope you're wrong.
But here's the gist.
No offense, JuJu, if you're watching.
Right.
This. No offense to you as a person. Purely football perspective, I really hope you're wrong.
So this is what happens. They come out, they start the game, the starters are in there. Starting offensive line, starting quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, starting personnel grouping outside of Hunter Henry. So they're in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. The 2 tight ends are Austin Hooper and Mitchell Wilcox. Wilcox becomes the 3rd tight end, especially with Jaheim being a rookie, which we'll get to Mitchell Wilcox later. But then they come back into 11 personnel. They take 1 tight end off, and they bring a 3rd wide receiver on, and it's JuJu Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
JuJu Smith-Schuster is the first slot receiver in their package, and I'm going, wait, this guy in practice has not been repping really with much of the first team, if at all. It's been Demario Douglas. Now, granted, he didn't play today, but even when it wasn't Douglas, it was Jalen Polk.
Was the second slot.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I tweeted it out. Yeah. I felt like an idiot.
Right. It was Jalen Polk who was coming in, and even if it wasn't, they're making different adjustments, and maybe KJ Osborne bumps it. JuJu hasn't really been playing with those guys. Then all of a sudden it comes game time, and he's the first F to be called upon. That felt funky to me. I don't know if they were doing him like a veteran's favor, if they didn't want to throw Jalen Polk as a rookie right into the mix right away as sort of that next F. He maybe has to earn it a little bit. But then even further was later on in the game, JuJu wasn't competing with the guys he's been competing with in camp, right? He was sort of on that back end of the receiver room with Kaan Booty and Tyquan Thornton and maybe not Jalen Reagor. He's kind of been more with the first team, but like those Jaquay Jack, like JuJu hasn't been a competitive top wide receiver throughout camp. So for him to come out here, I'm kind of confused. I don't know what it is, but I want to get your take on why JuJu was out there, early and often, and not with the guys we've seen him with in camp. It was weird.
It's going to be real quick. I don't know. I have no idea why he was out there, honestly, because it doesn't make sense. When you look at what he's done in practice, sometimes, like with Zappe, he hasn't been bad in practice, so seeing him out there was odd. Do not get me wrong. But, at the same time, I'm saying, all right, it's not like the guy was so bad in camp that it's like, why is Zappe getting 7 drives? He stunk.
Right.
I didn't, that wasn't where I went with it. JuJu, he
hasn't been reliable.
We keep saying
There's
it.
been
I
drops.
really don't like beating the dead JuJu horse, but truly, he's covered constantly. When he is targeted on plays that he can make, he very rarely comes down with them. I just don't understand. I really saw JuJu as someone who would probably be out here till the end. Now, I will say maybe it was health-related.
Could be.
Because we constantly see him, not constantly, not as much as we did early on in training camp, but we've seen him kind of off to the side, working with Tyler Hughes at times. He doesn't look like he's 100% healthy to me, so I'm thinking maybe that's why they didn't just want to put a ton of wear on his tires.
Sure.
But I'll say I'm confused. It's not like they were throwing to him or, it's not like Zappe were saying, maybe they want to put some film out there so someone sees him as a trade chip, which would still be weird because they played regular season against, like, starters last year. It's not like there's not tape on them out there. I don't know, but weird situation. I'm sorry. I got nothing for you. I don't know why they did that, but
it was kind of bizarre.
Yeah,
it didn't make much sense. It didn't go along with what we've seen from camp whatsoever.
Yeah,
all right, let's get to another wide receiver. I'm gonna do it, as you know. I love to do it. I'm gonna stir the pot a little bit.
What are you talking about?
Kaan Booty, leading receiver tonight. 3 catches, 58 yards. A lot of guys had him as a positive tonight. I thought he looked pretty good. Again, someone who was out there a lot. Again, the 3 catches. He did have a couple drops. He had a couple, missed targets. You can call them drops. You can call them high passes, what have you. And then you look at me and say, Booty wasn't great tonight. What'd you make of Booty? Because I feel like, from a 30,000-foot view, from myself, from, some other reporters out here, thought Booty looked not outstanding. He wasn't, the best player on the – well, maybe he was because there wasn't much good product out here. But I don't think you thought Booty was as good as everybody else did. Why?
Yeah, no, I think it's because the first play was impressive. That ball got on him fast. He high points to show strong hands, then turns around and gets more yards after the catch. I was excited. Everybody knows I'm a big Kaan Booty guy. Yeah. So I'm like, hell yeah, he's off to a really fast start. Let's go. Then the second target, I didn't think it was all that great. It's a curl route, it looked like, against off coverage. Made the catch, almost broke out of it for extra yards, didn't, but still fought to get a little extra. I was like, okay, cool, good start. Then his next 2 targets, the third one, it was a little dicey because I did see the cornerback kind of grabbed him by his chest a little bit. that made it a little tougher. I'm thinking, okay, bounce back from it, it's cool. Then we get another play where the ball hits his hands. It was contested. He couldn't win at the top of the route, and then it's another incompletion. So I was excited about the way Kaan Booty started the night, but for someone who I personally have not high expectations for, I don't think that he is going to be like a locked-in starter. I'd like to see him be a really complimentary role player, and the consistency tonight wasn't there for me. That's the biggest issue that I had, was I wanted to see Kaan Booty fighting through contact, winning at the top of routes, and being that physical kind of outside receiver he can be, especially against reserve competition, because I think he's talented enough. I didn't see that towards the end of his day in terms of targets. Again, strong start. I love that. I just want to see that consistently and maybe see a little bit more downfield from him. Not his fault that he didn't, but, you know, as we move forward in these preseason games in training camp, I want to see more of that contested catchability that we've seen consistently in training camp, and also some of the downfield stuff that we've seen in camp as well.
I like the way you put it, where, you know, you have high expectations for Rudy.
Yeah.
You like him. You think he's good enough to make this team. You think he can be an NFL contributor. So, you know, I feel like you look at Booty, right, and he has the 3 catches for 58 yards. He makes a couple nice grabs, and, you know, everybody wants to crown him right away. And it's like, let's get Booty on the team. Let's get excited for Booty, where that's not what's going to make him make this team. Because, again, we've seen what Jalen Polk, we see what Jalen Reagan do.
And you mentioned Jalen Polk. He had a similar route where it was a curl, where the guy was right on his back. We saw that with Jalen Reagor, we saw with Kaan Booty, and we saw with Polk. Jalen Reagor was not able to make that catch. Obviously, you know, it was a little bit high. I got killed for this. It was a little bit of a high pass for me, which is understandable. It's in the rain. Did hit him in the hands, but, you know, two things can be right at the same time. But Polk is the only guy tonight who we saw make that really tough contested catch. So, again, that's my standard, is you got to fight through that as an NFL receiver.
All right, we're going to hit on
Sorry, a little ranty there.
No, that's good. It puts it into perspective where we should be and where Kaan Booty is in trying to make this team.
Plenty of time.
We're going to hit special teams. We're going to talk about rookie offensive lineman Caden Wallace, and then we're going to wrap this sucker up in a few minutes. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks. We'll be right back.
Is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. With over 5 million active users, Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 stat projections for players and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, turning $10 into $1,000. Get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on Prize Picks. You can do this while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. Make a Prize Picks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week. For blowing select players, stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup, or getting entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. I love Prize Picks. I hit on a lot in the Celtics throughout the playoffs, and now we're back with Team USA out in France. So make sure you download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match bonus up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match bonus up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Thank you to Prize Picks. Use code CLNS for a $100 maximum 100% deposit match bonus. Something like that. Go to it. That's the ad read. I tried to ad-lib, but I couldn't really do it. All right. We're going to do a quick note on special teams here. First and foremost, Joey Sly comes out and does the first new kickoff. Chad Ryland takes the second one. And then Chad Ryland sort of takes the first reps at place kicker, and then Joey Slack comes in and takes the second one. Just sort of, you know, news and notes there, nothing to really glean from it. But the other thing I wanted to get to here is the new kick return. The Patriots only had 1 kick return attempt because, or maybe it was 2.
It was 2.
I missed the second
Wallace
one.
had 1, and he kind of got, like, outside here and kind of slid out
Regardless, in the first one, back to return was Isaiah Bolden and Kevin Harris. I thought it was noteworthy.
We talked about this?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We talked about it. We spoke with Isaiah Bolden about this after the game. Again, I'm gonna do the Alex Barth shameless plug here, where this was one of my 5 thoughts. If you want to go check it out on CLNSmedia.com, but let's cover it here too. So, Isaiah Bolden, one of the better kick returners. I don't want to say in college football history, but he had one of the best seasons a few years ago at Jackson State. He was, top 5 in yards per return. He had 3 or 4 return touchdowns. He was very good. And then Drake Maye comes out in OTAs, calls him a special teams demon. Says, he's going to contribute not only on defense, but in the special teams game. But then throughout the offseason program and then into training camp when they run, the new kick returns or the, kick return drills in general, we didn't see Isaiah Bolden out there once. He was never out there for a rep. So that kind of, gets us thinking, as the media heads, whatever, are they going to use him out here? Are they not? Are they hiding him? And then we ask him on Tuesday and say, hey, Isaiah, what do you think of the new kick return rules? He says, I love it, and that he's looking forward to being out there on Thursday.
You said.
Yeah, we all did the emoji because, he hasn't been out there. Then you look at, again, we talked about it in our pregame show, the very unofficial depth chart.
Yes.
But Isaiah Bolden wasn't listed as a kick returner there either. Right. So no evidence of Isaiah Bolden being a Patriots kick returner until that first rep where he comes out here and he's back there. Now, Kevin Harris returned it. Isaiah Bolden went in front and blocked. That must have just been where the kick was, what have you. But I thought it was interesting that it does seem like they're going to use Isaiah Bolden in the kicking game, and I'm excited when he finally gets the field one because we haven't seen him as an NFL kick returner.
I'd like to see him do it because he's probably not going to play much defense realistically, just because Marco Wilson actually started at corner for the Patriots over Alex Austin, and I feel like there's a lot of guys in that rotation before you actually get to Isaiah Bolden. So I want to see Drake Maye's statement come to fruition.
Yeah,
I want to see him use that crazy height, speed, weight, explosiveness,
He's got
vocabulary, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to see him
Right.
be that great special teams demon because he has the skill set to do it. And obviously the return stuff. Jalen Reagor, I think, should be the main return guy.
Yeah.
You got Reagor and Isaiah Bolden back
Right.
there.
That's
Some of
legit.
these teams are probably going to try to kick one direction to keep it from certain returners. Then you don't really give them a good option because you have two guys who are big, have good contact balance, and are going to take it to the house if they get behind your coverage unit.
Yeah, I think it gives him a reasonable chance to make the team as well if he can, produce in a special teams role of some sort and not just be a one-dimensional cornerback. Another returner tonight who looks pretty good, rookie, undrafted free agent David Wallace had a couple fun attempts. What'd you make of him?
It was surprising, to be honest with you, because when we see him in training camp, I mean, God bless the guy's soul, but he doesn't really
He looks like Ahmed out there.
he doesn't really catch or field the ball very well. He just doesn't typically look very natural. I've seen him whip. I mean, most of the returners have whipped at some point, but I didn't see this in him during practices. And also returns, you're not really trying to get a big play because you're not trying to tackle a lot of the time.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, good for him. He had that one really big return. I think he had another for 14 yards after that. Didn't make it. I think he caught one fair catch that was kind of weird because his big return came on a play where someone was dead to rights had him and he made a miss. He had another one where he had plenty of space, could have fielded and caught a fair catch or caught fair punt. It'll happen. It's fine. But yeah, it was cool to see something positive from David Wallace.
On that too, I think this is an interesting little nugget. I'll add that Julian Edelman was a guy who made his first team as a 7th-round draft pick as a punt returner in a preseason game. Yeah. Before tonight's game, tweeted about how was the preseason, how this is where rosters are made. Not saying David Wallace is going to make the roster, but pretty cool to see someone, same size and shape as Julian Edelman come out here and do pretty well in the return game.
One other special teams note I'll throw in.
Hit it.
Javon Baker was on the kickoff unit to open the game. That was pretty surprising. You don't really – usually during special teams, he's actually off to the side with some of the other outside guys. Like Booty will sometimes be there, but JuJu and Baker are two guys you typically see on the sidelines during special teams drills. But Baker is the 4th-round pick, and there are a lot of guys ahead of him at the X-receiver spot, even though he has mixed in with the starter. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And honestly, I'm excited to see the film and, to watch if the physicality that he brings as a receiver translated over to the special teams area.
For sure. All right, I'm going to give you one more alley-oop before we get out of here, Taylor. Caden Wallace looks pretty good, and there was a lot of penalties tonight. So quick analysis on both of those before we wrap this thing up.
Yeah, that was pretty disappointing. The tight ends and the offensive line, even Bailey Zappe had a delay a game penalty, also had an intentional grounding, which I think it was because there was pressure as soon as he was about to let the ball go. I feel like it was one of those bang-bang kind of plays. But yeah, I didn't love the discipline from the offense today. That's got to get tightened up for sure. But yeah, Caden Wallace, he didn't stand out for me in any negative ways. I saw people saying he and Calvin Anderson gave up the sack on Bailey Zappe, the really big one. The way I saw it was there was a blitzer, and Jermichael Hasty tried to pick it up, but really kind of got pushed back. There was nowhere for Zappe to step up, and he was 10 yards deep. You're not expecting to get protection when you're that deep in the pocket. You're supposed to step up. So, yeah, I thought Caden Wallace overall had a good day. And one other thing, should we mention the one player who was down for us? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mitchell Wilcox, man. Another one. This gives me no pleasure, but it was a continuation of what we've seen all training camp. Tough grabs he doesn't really make. He'll drop wide open passes. His first target, was the high pass from Jacoby Brissett. His second target was a throw to the flat, was in his hands. Then it popped. Just disappointing. I think he got a penalty. Didn't look good as a blocker. I said I thought Mitchell Wilcox was going to get exposed once the pads came on because they were using him a ton in the spring, and I'm like, I don't understand what the plan is here because everybody in the NFL is good to some degree,
Right.
but by NFL standards, I don't think he's a great player. He's versatile, but it's like, okay, he can line up in all these places, but is he a net positive or is he just kind of taking up space? And respectfully, I felt like he was just taking up space today.
I think he had a chance tonight to come out here and show why he's on an NFL roster, or attempt to show why he's on an NFL roster and why he's better and can beat out a guy like Jaheim Bell as a 7th-round third tight end. I don't think he did that. I think he did not help his stock today at all. So a tough showing for Mitchell Wilcox. A couple quick things I'll note. These are more of the the fun things around the stadium now that we're in a new era. First and foremost, the song that the Patriots came out to. No longer Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. It was now, oh man, what was it? I wrote about it too. It was one of the things I wrote about. I need to pull this up because it's important what's changing in the Jerod Mayo era. They now came out to, where is it? Oh, Let's Go. It's Let's Go by Trick Daddy and Lil Jon.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy Train is sampled in that. Thank you to Alex Barth for figuring that out. But besides that, mostly the same. Same music, same third down horn, same touchdown song. So a little bit of changes. I noticed a new mural in the media in the media room in there. There's a new lighthouse up in our press box. So
Jacoby Brissett leading the team out of the tunnel, which
yeah,
I guess you
that's true,
expected, but that was a thing.
Yeah, a couple new things, nothing crazy. Jerod Mayo rocking a white hat, white overshirt. I was curious to see what his first. Every time we've seen him, he's worn a navy blue T-shirt with a Patriots logo here, shorts, and like high socks with Air Force. So I was like, I've never seen him in anything else. And then all of a sudden he comes out in a white hat and windbreak. I'm like, oh,
who's this guy?
Yeah, he's bringing the drip out. But yeah, so this was fun.
Yeah.
This was fun. We have a couple live shows here tonight, so go check. If you want to check out our pregame, check out our postgame. We'll have coverage on CLNSmedia.com tonight, and Taylor will have a more in-depth breakdown with some film and things like that coming shortly.
We have film!
Yes, we have film. Taylor finally doesn't get to sleep at all because he goes go and crank out the film room. So we'll have a ton of stuff covered about this game. And we'll be back on Sunday where the Patriots are back on the practice field as well. So make sure you keep it here, rate, review, and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass. Subscribe to the Patriots Daily Podcast. And read our stuff on CLNSmedia.com. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.